Don't have anything clever to say this week, so.
That's fine. Although we were live when you said that. That's pretty
Oh.
clever.
Oh.
Hello and welcome to another episode of What's on the Pile. I'm Nathan Besner, and with me is Jenner,
Here with the mea culpas.
Shane,
Hey,
and
still
Wagner.
here.
Who has nothing clever to say?
We continue our Halloween movie discussion with The Cursed. A little pseudo-werewolf action indie that ran the festival circuit in 2021. I described the plot, but it's essentially the same as every other plotline where the Romani are portrayed to have mystical powers. A group of Romani have claimed land, rich British white people murder them all, and the Romani leave behind a curse that begins exacting vengeance through the dreams of the village's children. In fact, the majority of the brutal violence that occurs in the film is to kids, women, and grandmothers. So a bunch of them die because of the rich white people until a savior white guy saves them all by finally killing the beast. And referencing Brotherhood of the Wolf along the way.
I've never seen.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you, Jenner, but I was not warned of the violence to children in this film, so I had an extremely rough reaction to it.
I forgot about it. Basically, it's been a bit since I've seen it.
Well, for tonight, we are not just going to talk about the movie, but we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what triggers are, what they mean, what they are actually, not the buzzword that you hear on like social media or anything, but what is a psychological triggering event? What does it mean? But let's get the movie out of the way first. I hated it, although for a lot more reasons than just kids dying. Although I was harsher to it than I would normally be, but I still hated it. But let's hear what everybody else has to say before I take it down.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
I mean, I thought it was okay. I thought the Romani angle was interesting for a werewolf movie. Maybe you guys have seen that before. I hadn't really seen that before. I mean, to me, it was like, it was a combination of Drag Me to Hell and then I guess any other werewolf movie. I thought that was kind of a neat mashup. Beyond that, I like Boyd Holbrook.
Holbrook.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him in a role like this before. I think I only seen him in Narcos and Sandman. Really, thought he was.
Sandman?
He plays the Corinthian.
Yeah,
the Tooth Eyes guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know who Corinthian is, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Overall, I thought it was just okay. I didn't have the trigger reaction to this particular trope, I guess you would call it, or plot element. But yeah, that's my 2 cents, really.
Should I go or?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay. Quick aside, they're not Romani. These are Irish travelers. Completely different groups.
They call them gypsies, though.
Yeah, that's an umbrella term.
Yeah, I didn't use that word because I wasn't sure if that word is okay. I feel like it's not, but I don't know.
I mean, the director says that they're like the classic werewolf.
Gypsy does not mean Romani. Gypsy is a group of people with nomadic peoples across all of Europe. Specifically, Irish travelers are those people who live in Ireland. They're actually not completely different. But they're not related to the classic Romani that we know because that's mostly Eastern European. So it's
what are you basing this on?
Because if you look up Irish travelers, because I was interested in it, I'm like, I am not all that clear on the difference, but it's also known as pavis or minciers.
Because literally everything I have read about this movie says Romani, including the director's own words.
That's because they don't want to say gypsy.
Well, they say Romani, so I don't. Yeah. It's not based off of Irish travelers. It just is not. It's not an argument.
Okay.
That's just what it is.
Okay, I'll look into it a little more deeply then. I didn't have too many problems with this. It was not pretty generic. It was kind of generic. Except for all the ways in which they could make it more modernized, in which they could have like CGI tentacles and cocooning and stuff like that. There was a little bit of really unique stuff with the revelation of the child when they, cut one of the wolves open. And the framing story was a little bit interesting, except I was totally expecting once the bullet came out in World War I that he was going to
He was going to
revert
turn
and
back into the creature.
yeah,
I
I
kind of
thought that's
expected
where we
that
were
too.
going.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also kind of curious about the bullets that they made because they did not look like a classic bullet shape. I mean, I've never seen a sort of flattened arrowhead bullet. I wouldn't think that would traverse a gun
Well,
barrel
it was a
very
cone,
well.
wasn't it? I thought it was a
I
cone,
thought
not
it
flat.
was,
Was
yeah, I
It was
thought
a
it was kind of a flat.
it was a
Was it cone
I
shaped or
saw
was
it
it
as
a?
cone shaped.
Okay, maybe I was seeing it wrong.
But
Um,
still it's not a typical
yeah.
design
How?
for a bullet.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you're tamping it,
Hmm.
because you use ball shot for those rifles,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you put a cone backwards down a barrel and stick a ramrod on top of it, it's going to go sideways. You're going to get your ramrod stuck,
I know why they're
right?
cones. I know exactly
Why?
why they're cones. Because
Was it?
visually, that's what people think bullets look like now.
Hmm.
Yeah, which
It's
is
it's a
it's kind
just
of sad.
it's just not doing the right historical bit simply to get the point across.
Yeah. Silver ball, I
Mhm.
guess, wouldn't have registered to an average viewer as silver bullet. I guess it just would have looked it would have
I
looked
mean, they
odd.
could
I
have.
guess.
Yeah, I could see that.
I would have thought that. Yeah, I mean, they would have just polished it up unrealistically. But I mean, and the silver cones did like sit on a shelf for a while and never got tarnished, because that would not have been as visually interesting either. The dentures thing was a neat tackle. I'm still not entirely sure I'm supposed to figure out how the 30 pieces of silver, if that was the 30 pieces of silver, if that was people grafting onto it, and why the walking peoples decided to mold them into dentures. I'm not really sure where the origin of the artifact came from. Why did they make it? Did they find it? Did it form naturally? Because we start the film with them um, melting silver pieces down and then shaving pieces off of the werewolf dentures. And I'm not sure why they were doing that. A lot
Hmm.
of this week is going to be me not quite understanding what's going on.
That's
That's
okay.
just a
I
theme for several.
one of the things that I want to talk about the movie myself is I don't understand the ending in any way whatsoever. So I'd like to talk
Okay,
about that at some point. But go on.
I think I understood the ending, but maybe you'll have a question that I will reveal that I don't. Um, it was lots of little pieces. It's fun to see a period piece, even if there are little anachronisms that we're pointing out here. Um, and it was fairly fraught performances by everyone involved. The horrificness of the scarecrow was a particularly nasty bit.
Yeah.
That was going a little farther than I would thought it was going to. Um, but I wouldn't recommend this one in particular, but I didn't hate it. I think that's my summation.
All right, Jenner, what you got?
I I really, really, really like this movie.
Okay.
I think that it is just sort of the mystery aspect of the approach of the lead character, the Boyd Holbrook character. You know, I you don't see a lot of werewolf movies that are sort of constructed this way, and I think that the take on the creature itself was really interestingly done. You guys had more or less mentioned it before, that it's not exactly a werewolf per se. It's just something like a werewolf. But I think that the cocooning bit is incredibly neat. I think it's exceedingly atmospheric film. I actually got around to rewatching it after the conversation this morning because I didn't get to it last night, and I am so sorry that I forgot the centralness of.
It's the whole movie, dude.
It's the whole movie.
How did you forget it? It means you forgot the entire plot of the movie.
That's the bits that stuck in my mind were mostly visuals more than anything else. And I think visually it's a very sharply put together movie, and
It's very posh.
Yeah,
it's very
nice.
posh. It faints toward epicness in a way that latter-day werewolf movies usually don't. There's a feeling of sort of deep mystery running under the whole thing that I find fairly arresting, and at the same time has sort of a lot of the classic horror atmosphere to it. It feels old and new in ways that I found very enjoyable, even if it's far from perfect, as we've established. So that being said, what'd you think, Nate? I mean, aside from kind of spoilering your opinion first.
Yeah, I didn't like the construction of this movie or anything. I like the acting. The actors all fine. No problem with them. Everything I dislike about the film I attribute to the writer director, Sean Ellis.
I believe so, yes.
Almost every scene in this movie, I counted 17 times, either ends with a fade to black or a smash cut to black. And they're always used as punctuation. And in editing terms, it's like using a fucking hammer. Artistically, it's uncalled for. And the reason you don't use something like that, like imagine if on 24 the ticking clock going silent was done every episode. You wouldn't be like, holy shit, that character's really dead. Because it loses all meaning after a while. So it just becomes this weird technique. Furthermore, I counted 5 times in this movie people woke up from nightmares with a start. Because Jesus Christ.
It's a lot of that.
There is a lot of that.
Okay. I start nitpicking here. Okay, that kid Timmy who gets his whole arm knocked off and it's dangling by skin. Remember that? And then he runs into the cabin and he's holding it and then he grabs his piece of paper and he's like da 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 da. It's like, don't use your hand, idiot.
Yeah, his hand looked fucked when they showed it in close up when he first got injured. Then he was like kind of using it. And it was just sort of like
It's just so lazy.
Did any of you see Green Room?
Yeah.
I'm afraid to watch Green Room.
Yeah, that
I won't watch it again, but I do consider that a good movie. That's a very effective, horrifying film that is done with artistry and a uniqueness that I enjoy. I find refreshing. But I can't watch it again. Damn.
Yeah, that's a
very
rough
minor
movie.
nitpick aspect. The arm injury in Green Room, I was always like, you should be dead.
Yeah.
And this kid's arm injury was worse.
The smash cuts. I thought it was hilarious that they decided to do a set piece amongst dry cleaning. The maid who's like with all the dry air drying or whatever with the clothespins, whatever the hell.
Dry cleaning.
Clotheslines.
Thank you.
Yes.
They've been specifically warned, don't go outside alone, and she goes out to get her washing.
Not just that, but she goes out to like a place that has been used in 1,872 other horror films.
Mm.
It's the most, like, it did it like 3 times in that series. They did 3 of those. And here we are again. The blood splatter on the clean white sheets. Just yeah. I don't
I
like
don't
it.
mind that much. I just figure that's the trappings of the genre at this point. At some point, it goes beyond cliche and becomes, the cross and the vampire. Of course, there's a cross. It's a vampire movie.
When the horses ran by, caught on fire, Jess was in the room and she laughed and said, "What the fuck? Why include that?"
That I like the fact there were listed riders for the flaming horses in the credits. I don't know if you saw that go by.
The only
Really?
reason
I
he
didn't
put him in the
notice
movie
that.
is another one of those stupid fucking emotional. He likes poking emotional shit in the easiest way possible. Just a blunt hammer. The thing that finally that I realized that I truly hated the film was during the end sequence when they're doing the crazy camera work and everything, and everything starts getting kind of shuddery. The way you get that effect is you hold the back of a camera and you shake it, because Michael Bay is the one who created that effect, and he's famous for it. He did it in The Rock, and he has this story about how he was like, you want to make it look right, shake the fucking camera, and did that to the DP, who in other stories said that Michael Bay is a cocksucker, which he is. And to see that particular style of, like, I would not use that effect myself because of the connotation it brings with it. And any filmmaker knows that is a signal to any filmmaker. This is a style that I appreciate. Therefore, this is a filmmaker that I appreciate. And if he appreciates Michael Bay, then I'm out. Also, why a baby at the end? Why did they show a fucking baby doll being, like, torn away?
Wait, the baby?
There was a baby. There was a woman with a baby during all the chaos. It was either a flashback during the chaos or the chaos itself, where a woman has a baby, and then you see her fighting over it, but it's a really fake looking, like Cabbage Patch Kid.
Maybe this director appreciates Clint Eastwood. I don't know.
I
don't know.
I get I feel like this is a brash young filmmaker who has no subtlety in his bones.
He's been around since.
Yeah, I don't think he's that young, is he?
No, he's not that young.
well, then it's worse than I thought.
Yeah.
Because you should know by now.
Oh, I see. Okay, he did the short. Okay, the only other thing I know this guy from, well, that's not true either. I've seen a few of these titles before. I haven't watched them, but I've seen them on the shelves. Cashback. Do any of you know that?
No.
Oh, I know that one. I haven't seen it though.
Haven't seen it. It's got an arresting enough cover that I think I have it on the shelves here for $2 because.
Is that the one with the guy in his underwear?
No, it's a title replacing a topless character. The title is across. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I have no idea what it's about, but I walked past it enough times.
I think it's about two supermarket, if I remember correctly, and this is off the top of my head, I think it's about some supermarket employees who discover a means of temporarily stopping time.
Oh, that's more interesting than I was.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does.
Hijinks ensue.
Oh, it's a hijinks movie?
Well, I'm not sure exactly how far the hijinks go. Like I say, I think I have it. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
There's another horror movie called The Broken, which is another thing I've run across that had a pretty good poster. So
I will say one thing. This movie got robbed of an amazing title and got a generic piece of shit title instead.
What was the
original?
8 for Silver.
8 for Silver?
Wasn't
that's that rhyme that he was saying at the beginning and the end.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it
I don't.
means, but it's
Neither
a
do
more
I.
interesting title
Well,
than The
it's
Curse.
presumably part of a counting out rhyme.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, like I say, that's good. But yeah, I can see that being kind of a hard sell.
Still a
This
cool
was
title.
yeah,
It's
no,
cool.
it's a cool title. I mean, granted, the movie was kind of wending its way through more or less festival / indie channels. Anyway, it is
Yeah.
as a production very well fed for pretty much independent.
Mm.
Um, eh.
He also Anthropoid, if you know what
Oh,
that is.
I've heard of that. I haven't seen
I
it. I
haven't,
think it's a
I haven't
war
seen it.
movie, or it's like a
No,
uh,
no, it's
Oh,
World
it's
War II.
it's this
World War
plot to
II.
kill
Himmler.
him. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
No,
The guy
sorry,
who
General
did the final
Reinhard
solution.
Heydrich.
That's it.
Yeah,
yeah.
mission to kill General Reinhard
Which
Heydrich.
I think Kenneth Branagh played in the HBO movie.
Did he? Wow.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. What the heck was it called?
that it
Yeah, I've
it's
seen the one you're talking about.
it's the one about it's great. It's a really great
Oh
movie,
yeah,
but it's also terrifying because it's
yeah.
about them coming up with the final solution in a boardroom
Mhm.
Yeah,
at a big
it's
meeting.
it's
Yeah,
one of
That's
the
the whole
great
movie.
banality. It's one of the great banality of evil pictures.
Yeah,
yeah.
phenomenal.
But
Anyway,
yeah, no, I'm forgetting what it was called off the top of my head though.
The only other thing I have to offer on this film, and only because I noticed it, and I don't notice this stuff anymore. It had an odd habit of cutting away immediately before the action and then coming back. This wasn't happening during the major like gore scenes and stuff like that, but it did a few like the first instance of the girl running back to the house screaming for help. We see her like come up over the rise and just hear her in the background, and then the film cuts and it's everybody running out. Like she's already arrived, told them what happened. So it did have a little bit of efficiency there in that it didn't bother telling us what we, the audience, had already seen. And it cut straight to the yes, of course they would get all the people. Yes, of course they'd go running out to try and help, the rescue and all. But they did that at least 3 or 4 times in the film. So there was a little bit of economy sort of in the editing there. Um, but I noticed that in passing. That was about the only other note I had.
all right. Well, I really thought people would actually like this one more than they did. I thought I was going to be all alone here, and it seems to just be a kind
Eh,
of
I
meh.
Well, I don't dislike it,
Yeah.
honestly. Um, there the the origin of the curse here is so manipulative. It's very much here's the tragedy you expect. We can see it coming. Here it's coming. Okay, now here's the tragedy. These people are incredibly flammable or live an incredibly flammable lifestyle. That was the one thing that, wow, that table went up fast when that one candle rolled under it. That's just,
They always
I
do.
always recall, I
so
always
people are
recall
very
MS,
flammable in this
yeah,
movie.
I always recall MST3K whenever that happens. They're like, my oily rag collection. But
As nasty a
That's
scene
great.
as it was, I do think that the early massacre, which is basically one long shot, I think is a pretty amazing
Yeah, that was
piece of
pretty cool,
staging.
actually.
I
yeah,
wrote down wants to be Ari Aster but isn't.
I can see that.
there are worse things to aspire to.
No, but to fail at it. Uh, um,
Well, I am so sorry for the difficulties, and I'm sorry everybody didn't like it so much.
that's you win some, you lose some.
Eh,
Let's talk about what triggers actually mean though, because we talk about it a lot on the show. We say like this and that triggers this and that, but people seem to think that a trigger is synonymous with being offended, and
Mhm.
it is not. It is not the same thing. And I thought I'd share a little overview of what I go through when I get triggered by something. Um,
Mhm.
because of my past, where I had a not so great childhood, I don't know how much I want to say about that live on air, but it just trust me, it was not great. Um, it has led me to be unable to see children in death-like circumstances that is intentionally emotionally provoking you, that sends me back to that place. And it's not like I remember it and I get sad. I am bipolar. I have a chemical imbalance in my head. It is something that I have to take loads of medication for. So when I get triggered, what happens is it triggers an actual like response in my brain. It takes me back to that moment. Those moments are incredibly vivid for people like that. So they get to relive that moment. And a trigger can last from anywhere from a moment to the rest of your life. When some people get triggered, they go catatonic and they never come back. This is not just somebody saying, I'm offended because somebody used a nasty it's how people will say they've been triggered by something.
See, that's what I was going to say, is that you're fighting against the social current, which is that people will themselves use it to mean offended because that's the strongest response they have. They don't
or
they're
to impute
fortunately
offense to somebody else.
right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people for whom they think that's what triggered means, and they started using it that way, and it's getting into the common parlance that way, when it is not the same thing, and it is not useful to start conflating these things, because they just mean, I'm very offended you said that, not I am having psychological trauma for having encountered this, right?
Right. It's an actual term in psychology. It doesn't mean what people think it means. And I have to use that word in my everyday life because shit like that can happen. The last time I had a bad trigger, it sent me to the hospital. That's why I try to avoid certain topics. It's not because it offends me when somebody does rape, although, artistically it kind of offends me.
For what it's worth, in the case of El Conde, I had just completely forgotten about that bit altogether. It didn't even register in the first place. Not the concern about it as a trigger. It's just it's such a minor element of one bit late in the film. Yeah, frankly, it slipped my mind. But again, I'm deeply, deeply sorry about that. In any case,
yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about one of my own personal triggers where it's actually a physiological response. So this is actually somewhat recent. I was diagnosed with anxiety within the last 10 years. One of my triggers is claustrophobia. I don't know where this came from. I don't have any past trauma from that. But I get a literal panic attack. Like, my body chemistry changes. And actually, like, I got an MRI a couple weeks ago, and I'd had MRIs before. This time they put me in head first. As the thing was coming over me, and I was strapped down. I told him, stop. You need to turn me around. I can't go in this way, because I was having a literal panic attack. This happened to me this past week when I was watching Disenchantment. There's a scene where Zog gets buried alive in a coffin, and he starts wigging out. And even now, I'm a few episodes later, he's still recovering. But during those scenes, I had to get up and walk away for a little bit and come back.
That's a particularly brutal part of that show.
Because I was feeling my body chemistry change, and I had the same fear. That's one reason I never saw The Descent for the longest time. I thought that was going to happen nonstop. I even told my friend who I was watching it with, there may be a point in this movie where I'll have to leave the room. If that happens, just keep going and tell me when that part's over. I ended up loving the movie. There was nothing that bad in that movie, but I had that concern during that. I started having that fear during As Above, So Below, another movie I loved.
Okay.
As I was watching that movie, I thought, okay, I can handle this. When they go into the catacombs, I'm like, okay, those are foam core boards. This is a set. Then, for some reason, I decided during the movie to look up the Wikipedia. They filmed in the actual catacombs, and one of the actors was freaking out due to claustrophobia. I'm like, fuck. But I stuck it out and also love that movie. But I do have that trigger, and then Disenchantment for some reason set that off.
It's very effective in Disenchantment to the point where he I don't think this is a spoiler per se, but he never recovers from that.
Yeah, he's still fucked up, and I've never watched that movie with Ryan Reynolds.
I was
That
gonna say-
is
Oh,
don't.
I've never watched
Okay.
either version of The Vanishing, and I
Uh,
probably won't.
avoid Crawl
Yeah.
or Die, mostly because it's a bad, lousy movie, but it does play a lot on claustrophobia and crawling through increasingly small tunnels.
Wait.
Yeah. And
Andy,
it's
what was? Sorry, go ahead.
and it is fairly recent that this happened to me. I don't know where it came from because I never had this issue with Kill Bill Volume 2, although I haven't rewatched it since I had this diagnosis. I wonder how the buried alive scene in that would affect me, but it didn't affect me when I first saw it.
That's the other thing. You never really know how something is going to affect you until it happens. And knowing ahead of time if something triggering is going to be coming kind of softens that blow.
Yeah.
Just freaking warn the people.
That's pretty much it.
Better yet, remember what was in the movie and pick a different damn movie.
and if the people say I'm not comfortable watching that movie, just be like, okay, cool, and
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
it.
Don't. I mean, that should be the end of it.
Yeah, it's that simple. If somebody says they're triggered, treat them with respect. Say 2 words and walk away. That's not that hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is.
I realize you didn't remember, Jenner. I'm not talking about you right now.
Okay, I was about to say I don't think I gave you any grief about this.
No, I know you're genuinely sorry. You wouldn't do that on purpose.
Yeah, it's just the eternal calculus always comes back to bite me eventually, which is sometimes I just don't think things through very well. I mean, realistically, I think some variation on that happens to everybody. It's just I'm kind of obliged to come back to it periodically. Oh, this was one of those times where I didn't think things through very well. That said, the rape thing would have never occurred to me, honestly.
That I only got that because it says it at the top when the movie
says
starts.
it on. I haven't gotten to that scene yet.
It's a tiny bit of the movie.
It's a tiny rape.
It was an insignificant rape.
It is a minor moment. It's background.
But like asshole kids getting killed like a Psycho Gorman. That's okay, right?
Yeah, because it's ridiculous. It's abstract.
Yeah.
Wagner, you have been wanting to say something in response to something I said.
Not exactly. I was. This is sort of foreign territory for me because I'm lucky in that I don't have background of trauma. I have a phobia, which we've talked about previously, which is I have a fear of flying, and I have to fucking do it all the goddamn time anyway. I've got one coming up Saturday, and then after I get back from that trip, I've got another one coming up the following week, and I turn into an asshole for about 2 days beforehand. And but I avoid films that have anything to do with that, but I recognize there's a difference there. That's just a phobia I have. It's an unreasoning fear. It's not a physical change like you're talking about.
It's not physiological.
I get a little close to panic attacks, but I have yet to have a full-blown panic attack about a flight.
So what about a movie like Flight or Sully, where there's like a harrowing like airplane scene? Does that bother you?
I haven't watched those
Okay.
because I don't think I would enjoy that. The problem is I know that if I watch those, then the next time I get on a plane, that is what's going to be running through my head. Because I still have really vivid memories of the last time I've seen movies with particular, light problems or people getting sucked out of airplanes or news items I've seen of, that plane that had the body like tore off of the middle section of the plane. They still managed to fly and land it. And I'm like, that is something that actually happened. That's not even fiction. And that could happen here because I know what metal fatigue is. And I have a degree I have an engineering degree, and I know the principles that hold planes up and what could foul that up. So
Avoid
have a-
Peter Weir's Fearless if you haven't already.
Oh no, this is the great fun because if ever you mention to someone when you are on a flight that you have a fear of flying, they will immediately tell you the worst flight they have ever been on. And I've been sitting next to people who were in paratrooping situations telling me about the worst flight they've ever been on. It doesn't help, guys.
So it's like an endless repeat of Rick Dukeman's appearance early in The Hunt for Red October. Oh, you want to talk about puke?
Yeah, very much so. You know, talking about, yeah, I was in a flight once and it dropped 200 feet with no notice. Oh, thank you. Now I know that's a thing I have to worry about. But I recognize that that's not being triggered. That's just having a phobia. That's a different thing entirely. So it also becomes difficult for me because I don't really get offended by films. I think I've been offended once. It was such a foreign feeling that I'm not even sure that's what was going on. And it's not a film any of you have probably ever heard of. And I have been sick to my stomach, close to vomiting because of visual media like twice ever. And that's as close as I get to any of this. And I recognize that's all completely different. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I am
I don't have a lot to
very
contribute.
I am very light on triggers, but it's one of those things that I feel like I need to be more mindful of in general. I mean, the closest I probably have is occasional incidental aversions. My only real notable aversion is a nauseous reaction to chewing gum in my proximity. I think the one time I had to step out of a room for a movie was about 2/3 of the way through Park Chan-wook's Lady Vengeance. And it's absolutely a variation on the same thing that actually acts as a trigger for you, Nate. I'm not going to go into it in great detail. It's just an unbelievably upsetting moment.
I've seen that film.
I have too. I'm not sure what. I don't remember it very well.
The videotapes.
Yeah, I saw that movie before a bunch of other traumatic shit happened. So I would not have been triggered at the time that I saw it. I don't think I'm going to give it a second watch. I don't think I'm going to test those waters.
That feels fair. But again, it's one of those things where you just have to work on the empathy response. I just remind myself that the purpose of something like this is sharing cinema, or at least sharing a shared experience of cinema, is to bring people together. It is to spread joy in the art form, or at least joy in those instances where we accidentally come across something that all of us dislike equally, or at least to get into somebody else's point of view about something like that. It's not designed to be traumatic. It's not designed to be upsetting. And again, kind of getting my mind around that is, I think, one of those things that certainly could stand to work on.
Well, I wouldn't say that everybody's not setting out to be upsetting. I think there are certainly directors out there who are out there.
Well, I mean,
fuck with you.
there's the good kind of upsetting, and there's the this is actually having an effect on my quality of life kind of upsetting.
Yeah. Like okay. The Black Phone, incredibly triggering for me. It has a very realistic.
So I don't know. Have I mentioned this before?
You've told the story. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The what?
They stole it from you.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember that.
Fucking story. Yeah.
We've been over.
That's why I've avoided it.
That feels fair. That feels like a proportional response.
No, it just has an incredibly realistic child abuse beginning, where the kid, for the first time I think I've ever heard in movies, hit the pitch of a kid being abused like so perfectly. It was like you're just right back there in an instant. And I just had a breakdown. I will acknowledge that I respect the film because they decided not to flinch at that. And the actress, the little girl actress, was amazing. that she could like get that going in herself, or was that she could do that was phenomenal. I will not watch the rest of the movie. I will never watch the rest of the movie. It froze me.
Did you
Yeah.
ever watch True Detective first season?
Yes.
Okay. There it was all just sort of thematic, that they didn't actually show anything. They showed people watching the tapes,
hmm
which I felt was the right way to do it. But did you find that triggering just because of the implication?
No.
Or okay.
No.
I was
No.
curious.
Like,
I mean, yeah.
sooner or later, we need somebody to play Werner Herzog in Grizzly Man. You must never listen to this tape.
I agree. I like doing it that way because yes, it still upsets me, but it doesn't trigger me. It's going to upset me just because it's a scale and it just happens to be under the over the bad thing scale.
It doesn't hit the red line.
Right.
You are not a race car running in the red.
Right. But no, I didn't mind that one. I like it when it's done tastefully. I don't like it when it's done manipulatively. I consider it beneath me. Very smug about it.
Well, again, feels like a fair way to view it.
Anyway, let's wait for Wagner before we move on. I don't have a lot more to say here. I just wanted to bring up the topic, make sure people listening or otherwise understood that when we talk about triggers, we're talking about actual shit here. We're not saying, oh, such and such offends me. I will watch almost any movie. I've seen Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox.
I don't need to watch either of those. I'm pretty sure.
I
really
don't think you would. I don't think you would enjoy yourself with them.
Nobody does,
Yeah.
unless they're like sociopaths. Nobody
Unless
watches that movie and says that was a really great movie. They say
I mean,
that was Cannibal Holocaust.
That is not the reaction for that movie.
I mean, doesn't Eli Roth wear Cannibal Holocaust shirts on set? I think he does.
He's just he's such an edgelord fanboy.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh God, I hate that dude. We started watching his new animated show on Hulu, Fright Crew, and it's about these kids in New Orleans who meet a bunch of New Orleans like ghosts and witches and stuff, and a demon gets released, and they have to stop it with their superpowers. And they actually say with our powers combined at one point in the first episode. So it's not ironically. Like somebody wrote that in and nobody understood that it was a joke. That's exactly what happened in that situation. I don't know. It's kind of just boring. It's not that bad. But I hate I hate everything about that.
He's not your guy.
No.
Yeah, no.
It's just too smarmy. He's that guy who corners you at a party and says, "You like horror movies? Yeah. Remember that one time when that guy got killed and his arm was like hanging off and it looked so real? That was a good death. Remember that other time that woman got split in half and you see her vag all over the place? It was a good death."
The Good Kill Crew.
Yeah. That's Eli Roth to me.
Yeah.
And yes, I did enjoy Hostel and
Oh yeah, you made me watch Hostel.
I did. I enjoyed that. People change over the years. People have old and new traumas. Things stop bothering them. Things start bothering them. They have different outlooks. And I could not watch Hostel at this point in my life, I don't think. It would just upset me too much because looking back on it, I don't think it was actually a good movie. It was just like it had Takashi Miike in it.
Yeah.
So we all like had stars in our eyes for this shit because they're like, oh, one of us. And looking back on it, I don't think he is. I think he's a star fucker.
Eli Roth.
Yeah.
Or Takashi Miike.
Oh no! People should be so fucking lucky they should star fuck Takashi Miike.
Yeah. There's a filmmaker who has tested his limits creatively. Yeah. I respect him.
And endurance wise as well.
Mm-hmm.
with his pure volume.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have anything else really to say on the topic. I was telling the other guys. We can move on. I just wanted to, talk about it a little bit, get it out there,
Mhm,
kind of
mhm.
clarify things, and hopefully make people aware. Whatever. um,
We serve many purposes on this program. We do what we can,
turns out.
for our compact listener and viewership.
let's move next to stuff we watched that we want to talk about. All right,
Ooh.
everybody hold up how many things you have to talk. What, Jenner?
I was gonna say, were we going to talk about El Conde at all, or
Yeah.
were we just going to pass that completely?
Oh, I didn't watch it, so I have nothing to
I
say
didn't
about
finish it. Yeah,
Oh,
Fair
oh,
enough. Oh.
I do
okay.
want to finish it at some point.
Well, okay. Then I have 3 things to talk about. I did watch it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then we're gonna include it in your things.
Can you talk about it without spoiling it? Because I'm like a third of the way through.
The
Yes.
tricky part is
Like I really don't. At where I'm at, I really don't know what the movie is about yet. I think.
the twist is so great, but
You
leaving
all
that
would
aside.
love the twist. I can tell. Both of you would love the twist. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah. Also, at the risk of a very slight spoiler, you'll feel better about the rape when you find out who it was. Just gonna let that's probably a reach.
That's problematic to say.
Sorry about that. I heard it coming out of my mouth. I regretted it immediately. Forget I said that. Even so, it's really a tiny plot element. Anyway, possibly worth just talking about as something that Matt watched at this point.
Yeah. So everybody, hold up your fingers. How many things you watched to talk about?
Ooh, just a sec.
Oh no.
Oh, that. Yeah. Okay.
Granted, one of them is very short.
Jesus, save you for last.
Well,
Wagner.
yeah.
All right. Oh, okay. This kind of spoils it a little bit because I thought we'd stumbled onto a really neat theme, but I'll go ahead. El Conde. That thing, I was going to do a lot of talking comparing that film to the film we just finished talking about. And while the film we just finished talking about it's a little better than a standard programmer, it's got some neat ideas. There's flaws in it, as we've gone over extensively. El Conde feels like a masterpiece to me. Genuinely. I think it's a very, 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 very good arty European style. Obviously, it's Chilean, but it feels sort of European style. Black and white, satire, deep thinking film. I'm not sure I completely understand it. That is to say, I understand what happens in the story. I understand the politics behind it. I understand the point it's trying to make. But one of the characters, I do not understand her motivation or her actions in the film. Specifically, the nun.
Yeah, I was going to say. I was going to say.
She comes in very early. She has a job to do. How she goes about doing the job doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to, or if there's something hidden about it, or if if it's a cultural thing. But there's a lot going on in the film. Speaking very broadly about the setup of the film and stuff that you would have gotten from the trailer. Pinochet is a vampire. The dictator of Chile for almost 20, I think 17 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Got tired of it, faked his death, is now hiding off in a mansion, and he has gathered his family together in order to disperse his wealth. But he either doesn't remember what he did with the wealth, he's old and senile, he wants to die, or maybe he doesn't. There's a lot of interplay between he and his family there. And it's a lot of contemplation of what you could say a real life vampire would be like, because this is an elderly monster who lived off of suffering and misery of other people.
To
The
the point
ruling
where he
of
made a
Shore.
career of it.
Basically, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and casting Pinochet as a vampire does not in any way minimize it. It sort of explains it to some degree, and that's kind of the politics of the film. But there is one character that comes in, and I can't go into it any further without spoiling it. It's very, very well shot. It is
The
not,
photography is so beautiful in that movie.
yeah, it really is. I finally realized what scene you all were talking about, the rape scene. You're right. It's enormously incidental to the actual story. And I'm not going to go into it. It would actually inflate it more if I explained what it was. It is that incidental. But it is a genuine sort of vampire film. And that leads into my other two offerings, which was I thought we had stumbled upon a neat theme for the month, which is classic monsters, because that was a werewolf and a vampire. And I'm like, okay, where can we go from there? So I started hunting around and I picked out two others. I watched We Have a Ghost.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, slight
okay,
but
Shane
quite
has not.
likable.
I really enjoyed
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah.
It was, I think slight is accurate. I liked it too. I liked most of it. Very predictable. David Harbour, it's David Harbour, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. David Harbour was by far the unique element of this film. The rest of it is just sort of how can we have fun with the mechanics of a ghost? And the story they tell isn't a super deep mystery. Some neat little aspects to it. It was pretty slight. It was a couple of points to just have fun with a ghost and then tell a sad story, and I teared up at the end. So yeah, I liked it well enough. I'm not sure I would actually suggest it for the group because it is so slight.
Yeah.
But that was
No,
my
and
intent.
I talked about it when I saw it a while. I think when we were still doing the podcast, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I
I
don't think
missed
it's
that
been.
one.
I don't think it's been out that long.
Maybe not.
It wasn't so long ago. I think it was only like. Granted,
It's
my sense of the
2023.
passage of. Yeah, I was going to say my sense of the passage of time is not super terrific, but I think it was earlier this year.
Yeah.
It was not 2023. No way.
Yes, it was.
Really?
I think it was January. I think it was one of the first movies that was released this year. Granted, it was on Netflix, of course.
I mean,
Might have been
it's IMDb,
February.
so might
Yeah.
be.
Might have been
error-riddled,
February, but even so.
Yeah, and then
2023. God damn it. That feels like 8 years ago that I saw that movie. That's how slight it is.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um
and the other thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I thought I had a fun night on family movie night watching it with my family. We all liked it. My criticism was that it is about 15 minutes too long.
Yeah.
I can see that.
It's
Oh,
2
It's an
hours and
excellent
10 minutes.
It's an excellent family movie night because
Yeah.
it's not going to be too rough for anybody. It's not going to
Just
be
Budget
too
for
risque for
bathroom
anybody.
breaks.
Yeah.
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 And then I was like, well, that's kind of a long movie, so what would I offer as another, classic monster film? I went, okay, let's go to Frankenstein. So I watched Frankenstein's Monster, Frankenstein.
Also with David Harbour.
Yep.
Also with David Harbour. So it turned into an unintentional David
Yeah,
Harbour double
yeah.
feature,
Mhm.
and
But that is a great little
recommend
short.
Yeah.
that. It is 38 minutes, and it's a little long for 38 minutes, but it's got some good bits in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that thing tremendously.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that Netflix has been sort of putting their kind of heft behind weird little mini features like the little Wes Anderson Roald Dahl shorts that I was talking about last week.
I'd also watch those.
I talked one week about that the Groundhog Day, except with a cop killer cop. That's on Netflix, short film.
I think I vaguely remember that.
Maybe that might be on excuse me, Max. That might be on Max.
No, I think I'm thinking of something about a teenage hit woman.
No, this was a
No,
short
something
film
else.
about a guy who has a Groundhog Day thing where he's a young black man. He meets this wonderful woman. They have a great night together. He's leaving her place, and then a cop is like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm not doing anything." And then it all leads up to the cop shooting him and killing him. And for the entire thing, it's just Groundhog Day where he tries different methods of getting this cop not to kill him, to the point where he was just like, I mean, this is so awful. Um, I'm just going to tell you everything and just talk to you as a human being. And they talk to each other as people, just
Mhm.
really get to know each other. They really start bonding. And he's walking home to get to his dog, and the cop starts laughing, and he says, you're stuck in here with me forever, and shoots the shit out of him. And it turns out that this cop knew the entire time and was fucking with him and just killing him in different ways and torturing the guy,
So he's in a hell.
essentially. But
Okay.
he wakes up. The last line, the last moment is he says, this is impossible to fight. I don't know what to do, but at the end of the day, I'm going to keep trying no matter what happens. And so it ends on a positive note, and it's obviously an allegory to systemic racism, and it's a very effective one. And I've given away the entire film now, but it's 20 minutes.
How long was it?
20 minutes. Yeah. The twist got me. Now it won't get any of you because I spoiled it. Actually, that twist was one of the things that made it interesting. Instead of being just that kind of 90s ideal of everything's all rosy now if we just talk to each other, it really showed, no, we got to do a bit more than that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I haven't. I think I've heard of that one. I have not seen that one.
I hadn't heard of it.
Very cool.
Yeah, but I like the big streaming platforms investing in shorter material. That feels like a very positive development in general. But yeah, Frankenstein's monster, Frankenstein, or whatever the heck it was called.
Frankenstein's monster's monster Frankenstein.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it is the monster of Frankenstein's monster who is Frankenstein.
Yeah, that I thought was a really neat little piece, not least because I believe I have seen the Canadian theatrical, the Canadian sort of filmed or videoed play that directly inspired it. They also did a good Dracula around the same time. This was like the early 80s, but yeah. So it's one of those things where I think it helps if you get the reference point.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I'd had stumbled upon a neat little way to sort of continue the theme for the month, but I honestly can't say I'd advise we do either of them. There isn't really much to talk about in the first one, and I think everybody's seen the second one. So
I'm gonna force a movie down you guys' throats for next week anyway.
Oh, okay.
That feels
okay. And I did watch the Roald Dahl shorts. I think it's interesting. Ben Kingsley again plays two Indian gentlemen in the shorts without any makeup this time, fortunately. At any rate.
Is that all?
That's all I had.
Okay. Shane.
Actually, I get to do a Wagner this time because I have physical media this time.
Woo!
Oh,
Because I went to the library. Let's see. What do I put them
Save
over here.
physical media.
All right. So first one you guys have all seen. We don't need to talk about it too much.
Yay.
Yep.
Very
Yay.
enjoyable, very fun. I will say this movie I feel like comes closest to any live action movie to actually capturing Mortal Kombat style gore. More so than any Mortal Kombat movies.
I will
agree.
I will absolutely agree with that.
I will agree with that.
But yeah, a lot of fun. And then this one I'm not sure if I've heard you guys talk about it or not. I just picked it up because of the title. Werewolves Within.
Yeah.
You guys seen?
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
seen that.
So
fun movie.
very
it's
fun.
On,
Yes, I have.
it's on our list.
Fun, very slight. So when this movie came up, one of the logos that came up at the beginning was Ubisoft.
Mhm.
Apparently, this is based on the video game, based on the classic like party game Werewolf Mafia.
Yeah.
To the point where there's a scene where they're literally sitting in a circle trying to try to figure out who the vampire or the vampire werewolf
werewolf.
is.
Mhm.
But I would call this slight horror comedy, more comedy than horror. A lot of fun. I had never seen Milana Vaintrod. I'd only seen her in like cell phone
Hey,
commercials or something like
yeah.
that.
Oh.
But she was a lot of fun in this.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
And Sam Richardson doing a terrific job of the guy who's just way too freaking nice.
Yeah, Nate, have you seen this?
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought
I
it
was
was
gonna say
fine.
your family would probably like this. I don't think there's anything objectionable. I mean, there's some
No.
like
We
severed
did
limbs and
watch
stuff.
it. We watched it all together. We were all just we thought it was fine.
Yeah.
Nothing major. It was an enjoyable evening. I honestly don't remember most of it.
Yeah,
It's a good
it's forgettable but fun. And then I hosted a group watch on my Discord, and we watched The Bad Batch
Hey,
on Netflix. Which have you seen it?
the Western.
was that Amirpour?
Amirpour.
Still
None
need
of
to
us
see that.
none of us enjoyed it.
Oh.
2 people left during the movie.
Oh.
So this movie has an insane cast. I mean, it's Jason Momoa, it's Keanu Reeves, and Jim Carrey, who is utterly unrecognizable. He plays this weird desert hermit who we didn't. 2/3 of the movie, someone in the chat said, "Is that Jim Carrey?" I'm like, "There's no way that's Jim Carrey." I looked it up. It's Jim Carrey. And the lead is played by Suki Waterhouse, who I've never seen anything. This movie was 2 hours long. I could go in an hour and make a 70-minute cut of this movie easily, instantly. Every scene in this movie is too long. The movie, what it's roughly is about, is a girl gets released into this apocalyptic desert that used to be Texas and falls in with some cannibals who initiate her into their society by eating her arm and leg. So right away she gets her arm and leg cut off and eaten.
Wow.
Then she befriends a kid who belongs to Jason Momoa. The kid is kidnapped by Keanu Reeves' cult. Keanu Reeves leads a cult. His character's named The Dream. The slogan for his cult is, "You cannot enter the dream until the dream has entered you." Of course, it's a post-apocalyptic sex cult. Keanu Reeves with a big
so bad.
70s mustache.
That's pretty bad.
This movie, it's cool to look at. It has like a very Mad Max vibe to it. Mad Max meets like Fallout, post-apocalyptic cannibals. Every scene in this movie is way too long. Like when the first scene, she's released into the desert, and I would say it's 10 minutes before anything happens. She wanders around for 10 minutes, then she gets captured, then titles. Yeah, every scene as we're chatting, we're watching this movie. Every scene, everyone's like, "Why isn't this scene over yet?" Like the thing that needed to happen already happened, or when is the thing that needs to happen in the scene going to happen? Clearly was padded out. The ending just sort of resolves. It's just they get the kid back. Spoiler: they get the kid back. Keanu's like just kind of like, "All right, just take her," and they go out into the desert. And I shit you not. So Suki Waterhouse and Jason Momoa have been pursuing this kid, trying to get this kid back. Not really together. They're not working together. They're kind of at odds with each other. They're united at the end with the kid, and Jason Momoa's walking away, and the lead female says to him, and I quote, "You want to hang out or something?" And he turns around. He's like, "This desert will eat you alive or something." She's like, "Come on," and then he's just like, "All right, whatever. Let's just go." Like that's
very Scott Pilgrim ending.
but the thing is, it's not a Scott Pilgrim movie. It's just just a horrible line of dialogue. I kind of spoiled the movie, but like nothing really happens in this movie. There's no tension.
I hadn't heard of it, and I hadn't planned on seeing it, and
I mean,
now I probably won't.
It's on Netflix. Her first film was
it's on our list. It has been for a very long time.
Her first film was good. It was it's a long title. It's a woman walks
a girl, or I think it's A Girl Walks Home Alone.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, at night. That was a good one. This was her follow up.
Yes.
I don't know what her third movie.
I have not seen that yet. That is a major one on my pile.
That's a major one on mine as well.
That's a good one.
Really?
This was not a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
This was not a good movie, and it flopped. It got bad reviews.
I am told A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night is terrible if you actually speak Persian. Apparently, basically nobody in the movie it was Iranian.
Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah, but
it also destroys my major attraction to it, which is to see an Iranian vampire film.
That's exactly mine as well.
So their accents are all bad or something, or
Consider the guy who was talking to Major Spielberg in Godzilla versus Mothra, 1992.
Oh, no, sorry.
Maybe you
Joke
can
for
remember
me.
this for your son, Major Spielberg.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, the movie's on Netflix if you want to see Jim Carrey as a crazy desert hermit covered in dirt and sunburn and with a big beard and just looking weird. I don't know.
If
I
I
don't know
want
what
a
happened.
crazy hermit, if I want a crazy hermit all covered in foliage, I will watch Track of the Wilder People.
Mm,
Yeah.
What was that?
mhm.
The
Don't
New
know that one.
Zealand film.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
Didn't-
Hunt for the Wild.
Hunt
Hunt for the Wilder
for
People.
the Wilder
Didn't
People.
we watch that for this?
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You know who Jim Carrey looks like in the movie? You guys have all seen Twin Peaks season 3, right?
No.
No.
Yes.
Go
He
ahead.
looks like the God of Light guy in the movie. That's how like gross he looks. Like it's
Oof.
That's
Mm,
funny.
it's surprising. Yeah. I also finished Lies of P today. Very good Souls clone,
Mhm.
and really cool stinger at the end, which I won't spoil because Nate, you should play this game.
What's it on?
It's everything.
Okay.
PC, Xbox, PS5. It's on Game Pass too. If you want to just spend $10 and beat it in a month. So-
I still haven't gotten a new Xbox. I have no interest in
Oh, you can get it on
getting
PC. Game Pass works on PC too.
one. Okay.
So just pay $10. Pay
I-
$10 for a month and you can play it.
Okay. That's not a
So-
bad idea. I want to play it. I've been playing
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate though, so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what
Oh,
level are you?
2. I've talked to so many people though. I make my days last a really long
So
time.
do I.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere that if you like take a break for a day at the wrong time, you can actually fuck up events, and I did accidentally fuck up at least one event.
hmm
So now I'm gun shy about it, and I'm going way longer than I should before
Yeah.
I have a rest.
That game is amazing. Everything customizes the story. Every
Mhm.
action and oh man, I have
Yeah.
I'm playing a ranger who has nature or has animal speak. And so I've just been talking to all the animals and they're like, check out this bullshit human. Shit like that. It's just
Bullshit
so funny.
I want to play it, but Spider-Man 2 comes out next week. So
Oh, it does.
and it looks so good. Yeah.
Yeah. There's too much.
So,
Too
yeah.
much.
Anyway, that's all I got.
All right. Well, I only got 2. One of them we don't even have to talk about very long. But I'll do that one first, which is I rewatched with Amelia. She saw it for the first time. The People Under the Stairs. What a great movie! It's so weird.
Yeah, I watched that a few years ago
Yep.
for the first time.
That one was was kind of met with a collective shrug when it first came out, but it's really aged pretty well, I think.
I saw that movie with my mom, and she has been obsessed with it ever since. It's like her favorite movie.
Your mom has a very deep-seated social conscience.
No, Amelia loved it. She was like, "This is a perfect movie."
Awesome.
I've heard many things used to describe that movie. Perfect. I wasn't expecting that one, but okay.
She likes weird supernatural shit and horror and all the fun stuff. So yeah, got to rewatch that. Still good, still fun. Recommend anybody who hasn't seen it to see it. And then we watched we were thinking about Amazon and how we were talking about how there's so much on Amazon that we just don't watch because you never think to do it. So I watched
and their interface is so obnoxious.
Yeah. So I watched Totally Killer.
I just saw.
How
I
is
just
that?
I just saw that on my thing last night.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, Kiernan, what's her face?
Shipka.
Chipka.
It is definitely nothing unique. It's nothing new. We've seen Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You. It's a similar. It has that similar kind of wonkiness to it, but it's so much fun, and it made me laugh so much. It's really brutal too. It had me on edge a couple of times with the stabbing deaths of the poor teenagers who are complete assholes.
All right, I'll add it to the list.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Oh, this is a movie about a young woman whose mom, 30 years earlier, her 3 friends were stabbed to death 16 times on one of their 16th birthdays. And nobody ever caught the killer. So for the rest of her life, the mom has been like preparing, kind of like Laurie Strode, for
Ugh.
his eventual comeback. This is not a spoiler. This happens. It'll take the edge off of one very tense scene, but it's literally the plot of the movie. Within the first 10 minutes, her mom gets killed by the killer back 30 years later. And she runs, and the killer's trying to kill her and get to her. So she runs to the science fair where we had learned earlier her friend had been building a time machine. And she was going to show it at the science fair. She gets in there. An accident happens, sends her back in time without the killer. And she gets to hang out with her mom when her mom was 16 years old. And then she immediately tries to solve the deaths and find out who the killer was so she can stop her mom from ever dying in the first place. And what she finds out is that the 80s were not like today. They were not they were rougher. They said like it does not shy away from things we said in the 80s in school. It's like people are she keeps saying things like, you can't say that. That's so problematic. And at one point her mom says, what do you want to do with his les out? And she goes, ew, no, gross. But not because it's lesbians. They're great and they're fantastic and gay people are great, because you would belittle them. She's so concerned with all of these modern ideals, but the 80s are just not having it. And so it's a very fun juxtaposition. They had fun with it, and they made it feel they made it goofy enough that I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it.
Yeah, no, I've been wanting to get to that since we covered the trailer on Bastards. Just haven't gotten to it yet. But no, the high recommendation is a high recommendation.
It'll make you giggle at least.
Yeah.
That's all I got though.
Hey.
Oh, I did finish Ahsoka. I know you were watching that.
Yes. You see what I was going to say, you see what I meant about sometimes there were just too many pauses between sentences.
It's not just that. It
eased up a little bit as it got toward the end.
The show simply should not have been called Ahsoka. It should have been called Rebels.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to watch
Rebels,
it anyways.
the live action season.
Yeah. Ahsoka's only in about a third of the show. It's mostly about finding what's his face from Rebels?
Thrawn. Or Ezra.
That's it, Ezra. I watched that show. I forget his name.
Although I do really like their take on Thrawn.
Yeah. He's a
cool
continuation from Rebels.
I
know he's the original EU guy, but
yeah.
What is this also Ray Winstone's final role?
Ray Stevenson.
Ray Stevenson.
Yeah.
Not Winstone, different guy. Yeah.
Which sucks because he was probably one of the best things about it.
Really was.
He's really interesting. One of the more interesting characters to come into Star Wars in recent years. A guy who just completely rejects the Force and the way it's being handled throughout the universe and the kind of Ouroboros.
I hope they retain the character at least, although Lord knows who they're going to recast for it.
I know, that's such a hard ask.
I'm still interested to see what the character's actual deal was, because he never really tipped the hat on that.
I don't know. I'm so fatigued over all of these franchises at this point, except for Star Trek. I'll never be fatigued over that. I love Ahsoka. I loved the Clone Wars. I've been a Star Wars fan forever, but I haven't even watched Andor yet. I'm just getting.
Andor is exhausting.
I've heard that's like the only good Star Wars that's come out.
That's what they say.
It would have been great if it was 4 episodes. It's 12.
Ooh.
It gets better as it goes along, but the first 3 episodes, nothing frickin' happens. Like something happens every 4th episode. Just give us the 4th episodes.
Please.
All right, well, that's all I had.
Yeah.
So, Jenner, what 6 things
All
do you
right.
have?
Well, like I say, one of them was the surprise fourth Roald Dahl short that Netflix slipped in after they came out with the first 3, which was an adaptation of the story Poison, which is nifty in very much the same way as the other ones. Why it didn't come out at the same time as the other 3, I have no idea, but even so, it's out now. Yeah, no, like I say, highly recommend it. Covered these a little bit on Bastards last week, so I'll go pretty quickly through these. Saw Meg 2, The Trench, which is the least interesting movie Ben Wheatley has ever made, to the point where if I didn't know that Ben Wheatley directed it, I would never in a million years have guessed that Ben Wheatley had directed it. It's absolutely gun-for-hire schlock. It is slight. There's nothing particularly wrong with it, but there's nothing particularly to recommend it.
I have a bunch of questions for you. I have
I've never
so
seen
many
Meg
questions
1.
for you.
Okay.
1, are there crazy monsters that attack the planet like from the trench other than just the megalodon?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they like minuscule to the movie? Like, are they? Is it a flash? Or is that like a?
They get like like 5-10 minutes.
Okay. There are dinosaurs.
They attack a party beach. There are unfortunately only dinosaurs at the very beginning.
I thought
of
so.
the
I
movie.
warned Amelia because we want to see this movie very badly.
There are little dinosaurs that persisted in the trench, but they're the sort of thing where they're just kind of annoying.
Yeah.
The movie, as I say, is really inconsequential.
So the promise of a jet ski with a katana wielding Jason Statham is not fulfilled.
It's in the trailer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. It's
Wow.
It's a movie that needed some. It's a movie that needed something other than continuing a franchise to justify its existence. Yeah. I will allow. I kept kind of dozing off during it. I don't. Normally, I wouldn't blame the movie for that, but in this case, I think I kind of might. The point is, if a movie about giant sharks is not enough to steal my attention, EEL. Yeah, no, it's a programmer, but it's even less of a programmer than its predecessor, which at least had one amazing twist. Yeah.
What was the? Oh, that there was a bigger one.
Yeah.
Oh, I never even saw that.
You got it.
Sorry.
On the other hand,
it wasn't much of a twist. Yeah,
it doesn't sound like it.
It's really not.
I'm fine.
When you know the twist is about to happen, you know it immediately within the context of the timing of the movie.
Yeah, because otherwise the movie's 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
Leaving that aside, let's see. Saw The Haunted Mansion, or I should say Haunted Mansion to distinguish it from its predecessor.
It dropped the "the"? Are we losing the finally? Is it the new era of no more "these"?
In this case, I think it's kind of like where they keep tacking on subtitles or adding words or removing words just to distinguish them from other films. In any event,
so funny.
I realize you were trolling, but it actually deserves a straight answer. Like for some reason, calling the 2016 Ghostbusters "Answer the Call." Yeah,
that was bad graphic design.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I don't know, copyright bullshit. Even so, Haunted Mansion, I actually quite liked it. It caught a lot more of the atmosphere of the actual attraction itself, certainly than either, and I made this joke on Bastards as well, either of its 2 adaptations, the one with Eddie Murphy and the other one with Owen Wilson. Letting that one lie there.
I saw that one in the theaters.
I don't remember what he is in the Muppets one.
Oh no, not the Muppets one. I'm talking about the 1999 film called The Haunting.
Yeah. That's
right. I get it now. Because I thought you were talking about the Muppet, because there are 2 adaptations.
You're quite right. I forgot about that. That was fun. But yeah, no, I mean, props to Justin Simeon for a little bit of redemptive stunt casting for Owen Wilson. Nothing terribly monumental, but it's agreeable. It's fun. It's a good time. I liked it.
I like those Haunted Mansion movies. I like watching them with my kids. They're good kid fare, family
Yeah,
fare.
no, I think the team will enjoy this one.
Cool.
It's like I say, nothing terribly monumental, but 3 stars. Aside from that, saw the entire first season of Silo, which is not the greatest freaking thing ever, but it is actually pretty damn good. Not least for basically taking a young adult post-apocalyptic setup and actually populating it with interesting adults, which
you know
is
what, Jenner?
Frickin' overdue.
I watched it when I had my Apple TV subscription. My subscription ran out right before the last episode came out, and I've never gone back and watched the last episode.
Oh goodness! Last episode is actually pretty good.
Okay.
Look,
I thought the show was all right.
It's not great, but it's good. Which, like I say, given that it's something that typically would star a bunch of annoying teenagers, and basically was previously done as City of Ember, which was just okay. Better for having Bill Murray, but
Rebecca Ferguson's fantastic in it.
Rebecca Ferguson. I mean,
granted,
granted, most of the cast would be terrific, wearing a burlap sack and reading the phone book. But no, it's a good piece of work. It's interesting. It maintained my attention enough that I kept getting the one more episode phenomenon, which I'm expecting next during For All Mankind, which of course is dropping a week at a time, which is gonna suck.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till it's all out and then.
That's a good plan. That is a good plan. Aside from that, and a little bit of Doom memorialization, the other thing that I caught, which just surprise dropped on Paramount Plus, is the last work of the late great William Friedkin. Also, one of the last works of the late great Lance Reddick, a new adaptation of the Kane Mutiny Court Martial.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the Herman Wouk play, of course, famously done as the full movie with Humphrey Bogart, Fred McMurray, etc. But a arresting little piece, not least for Kiefer Sutherland at his twitchiest as Captain Queeg, but also really amazing work by the underappreciated Jason Clarke. Terrific character actor, probably best known to mass audiences as the guy who played John Connor in Terminator Genesis.
I was gonna say known as the worst John Connor. No, wait, there's been worse. Have there? Nick Stahl was okay, actually.
Nick Stahl was actually pretty good.
I would say Jason Clarke is the worst John Connor. But
Jason Clarke is. I actually liked Genesis, which I know puts me in a very narrow minority in the first place.
Yeah, even the filmmakers didn't like Genesis.
Yeah, realistically, the only Terminator movie that I don't like at all, or at least am completely indifferent to, is probably Salvation.
Which one was that?
That's fair.
That was the one with Christian Bale and Sam Worthington.
McG.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that and thinking, "Huh, I wasn't offended."
It's of no consequence whatsoever. I actively like all of the other Terminator movies, but even so,
I actually like 3.
I liked 3. I liked 3 a lot. 3's ending was frickin' perfect. Even so, the Kane Mutiny Court Martial, terrific performance by Jason Clarke, who, of course, is working with really, really terrific material. Sort of a stagey setup, but that kind of befits the source material. And again, given that it's more or less a film stage play, just makes me miss Friedkin that much the more, because he was one of those directors who was always, first and foremost, the servant of his material. So if it's an actor's showcase, he's going to bolt the camera to the ground, get a medium shot on Kiefer Sutherland, as Kiefer Sutherland delivers some high dramatic lines, and progressively breaks down completely convincingly on stand, even if the accent he uses for Queeg is a little off-putting at first. It's an absolutely, I mean, that's kind of perfect, but even so, it's an absolutely rock solid piece of work. It's very highly recommended, and the final shot and the final cut is absolutely wonderful. So if you have Paramount Plus, it doesn't cost you anything extra. And if you don't have Paramount Plus, you don't have Paramount Plus. Even so, I miss Friedkin. He could be a very hit and miss director at times. Like Deal of the Century has not aged, but good lord, Sorcerer has. Or I should say, Deal of the Century was never any good and remains never no good. But Sorcerer has aged like fine wine, or actually I'd say better than fine wine because I'm not a wine man. But yeah, no, I miss Friedkin, and it was a nice surprise to get his last work in this way.
I watched a surprise Friedkin the other day.
Oh, which one?
I was going through the list of Tales from the Crypt episodes, and none of and I had to watch it on my phone because Jess made me watch it on my phone rather than the TV, so I wouldn't bother her. And on the phone, on the YouTube channel that has all the episodes, the titles are completely cut off, so you're just picking at random. And I picked one, and I was like, "Huh, directed by William Friedkin." Okay, I cannot for the life of remember what the episode was, and this was like 2 days ago. It was not a memorable one, I don't think.
As I say, he could be hit and miss. He did some solid TV work. I know he did some good stuff for the '80s version of the Twilight Zone.
I loved that version.
Yeah, it was either Nightcrawlers that he directed or Grandma that he directed. One of them was Wes Craven and one of them was Friedkin. Both absolutely episodes that shook the hell out of me when I was a kid. And weirdly enough, Grandma in particular was my first introduction to my eventual favorite author, Harlan Ellison. Granted, it was Harlan Ellison adapting a Stephen King story, but yeah, no, like I said, Friedkin did one of those, and he did some solid work for television, was the takeaway there. But he was always an interesting filmmaker. Even his bad movies are usually interesting.
What else you got for us, Jenner?
That was actually it.
All right.
Oh,
like I said, I wanted to go out with the memorialization. Of course, Lance Reddick was always great in everything.
Yeah, that was very
also
sudden and surprising.
Yeah.
Also sorely missed and much before his time.
God, it just sucks. Anyway, I'll miss him as an actor. I want to rewatch
Fringe.
Yes. How did you know? That's what I was gonna say.
Fringe is the best.
It's very good.
Starts off as one show, turns into another show, turns into a whole nother show, and then turns into another show again. And it does it beautifully.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's one of those that was one of those things that got better as it went along.
All right. Well, I think okay. Let's move on to what we're going to watch next week.
What are we watching next week that I'm not even arguing.
We are going to watch Slaughterhouse.
Yay! I haven't actually.
Where is it?
Hulu.
How do I watch it?
It's on Hulu, October 15th.
Oh, it's not out yet?
No.
15th is what day?
You've all heard of this movie, right?
Yes.
Sunday. I probably heard it from you.
And I know I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I haven't actually seen it yet, though. So
it hasn't been released yet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh no! I mean, it's been released. It's just not for free anywhere yet. So I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
I am not sure I'm going to be here for next week. Just so you're aware.
Okay.
I have a. I'm going to be at a convention from. I don't recall. I have so many travels coming up. I don't recall exactly what dates I'm going to be gone. I will let you know if I'm not going to be able to make it.
Okay.
But I do want to see that movie. So
you should watch it anyway.
I am excited to see this thing.
Shane, do you know what we're talking about?
No, I've heard the title, but probably from you talking about it.
It is about a sorority house that gets a pet mascot, which is a sloth. Then, when they need to save money, they kick the sloth out of the house. So the sloth gets revenge, and it becomes a slasher film where the sloth starts murdering all of the sorority girls.
Is this a talking sloth or
no? Just a
no,
typically slow.
No. This is a sloth that does move incredibly quickly. I've seen the trailer, and winks at the camera.
Okay.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, it responds to things that people say. It is a puppet, and it looks hilarious.
I've been
Okay.
wanting to
Well,
see this. I haven't seen the trailer. I didn't know it moved fast. I was expecting a slow sloth.
I mean, it looks like
I,
a piece of like a tribble going across the floor when they do it. I'm sure they just pulled it with a string.
yeah, my only worry is that this sounds a little familiar to Thanksgiving, which is
Mm,
I've seen that actually.
I have not.
yeah,
I have not
and
either.
We can save that one for next month.
But see, I don't give a shit about turkeys or Thanksgiving. I like sloths. So
oh, I see.
Sloths are
it's
cool.
totally new. It's
Yeah.
totally different. It's a sloth
totally
now.
new.
This isn't like any of the other ones. This is yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
All right,
The other thing it
so
makes me think of is Zombievers, but
oh
I've
yeah, I
seen that
remember
too.
that one.
Yeah.
The one thing I worry about with the movie is that it's a little too it knows that it's a comedy a little too much, and then it won't be funny because it'll just be bad instead of trying to be funny bad.
Yeah.
It'll just be bad because that happens a lot.
I've actually heard really good reviews of it in
That's the
advance
thing.
from festivals, even from like the straight press.
Yeah.
Okay.
People seem
Yeah.
to like it. And it really it looks like it has the same sense of humor as Benny Loves You. So it's that kind of movie, I think.
Okay.
Just
Okay.
over the top, dumb bullshit, and I live for that. That's my favorite genre. Dumb, over the top bullshit horror movies. Like Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
Right on.
All right. Well, let me close us out. That's gonna do it for us here on What's on the Pile. You can visit us right here on YouTube or Facebook. I'm sometimes on there. You'll pretty much be talking to me, and I'll post when I remember to. But we are here weekly, so like and subscribe, and come back next week, and we'll talk about sloths, and it'll be awesome. Good night.
All right.